Welcome to RoundURS, people. Another great episode this week with my boy JC. What I love about this conversation with JC was the passion in which he talks about music and general creativity as a whole. You know, I love talking to people that have a very defined passion for the art that they create, and JC definitely has that. We spoke about a lot of things. In terms of music, he's got a very eclectic taste, and it was just wicked to sort of delve into some of those pockets of his interests and passions. So hope you enjoy this one. Bye JC, welcome to RoundURS, bro.
Big up, big up.
Yeah, man, I've been proper looking forward to this episode, man.
Likewise, G.
Yeah, I think some of the conversations that we had around music, creativity, all of that going into the episode, I was like, yo, Powers, this is going to be a wavy one, man.
Trust me, got an eclectic palette, bro.
I like that, man. So, bro, for the people who don't know, and like just to set some context for the episode, tell me a little bit about where you're from, like heritage and also London.
The upbringing. Born and raised in London, northwest London, particularly. Parents are of Scottish and Gambian descent. So my mum's Scottish, my dad's Gambian. Didn't grow up with my dad, but as of more recent, reconnected. So it was mum that was raising us. I say us. I'm one of like 5. So
for real?
Yeah. So there was.
I didn't know you had a big family, man.
Yeah, well, I got more outside of that, but what I grew up with was like my older brother, 2 younger brothers and a younger sister. So I was kind of sort of middle to older child, but man, all my musical kind of influences kind of come from my mum, my older brother, do you know what I mean? My mum was an artist, as you can see up here. That's one of her paintings. Fine art, portraiture, you know what I mean? So I grew up, despite the fact that my dad wasn't about that I did grow up quite African still. She gave me a lot of art, a lot of the philosophers, a lot of these scholars, from Marcus Garvey to Mandela to whoever, Stephen Biko, everyone. So she kept me educated and kept essentially still raised me with an African mindset and mentality, do you know what I mean? So she was always listening to Bob Marley and reggae. So I'd grow up hearing these kind of vibes, you know what I mean? My Scottish mother turning up to the reggae and dancehall, do you know what I mean? So I was exposed to that. But back to the artist, I saw her painting and I just grew up sort of imitating her. I think I got a lot of my creativity from her. So I just kind of got veered into the art world through that and started illustrating and designing and looking at graphic design as we had things like Illustrator and Photoshop come into play, do you know what I mean?
So you was always very visual?
Always.
Like, always. And was it like visuals before music for you, or was...
That's a powerful question. I think it would have been sound first. Yeah. But I couldn't really pinpoint exactly when or what that was. Because visually I remember what caught my eye. It was a graffiti book that my older brother had called Subway Art, and it just had all this graffiti of like all these character designs and all sorts and tags from Harlem or from New York. So I remember imitating and illustrating that sort of graffiti style based on seeing these books around and seeing my mum paint. So it was definitely aesthetics that like I fell in love with more, and then I think music kind of complemented it nicely when it came in, you know what I mean? When my palette for music matured, when my ear for it and started to appreciate the sounds, do you know what I mean? And the varieties of genres that I was being exposed to.
For real. So inside of like your childhood, or I guess like your early teens, what's your earliest memory of like a song or like a musical movement that really had like an impact on you?
I always go back to, and there was probably moments before this, but we'll start there. It was Jimi Hendrix. My mum used to play the Jimi Hendrix Experience.
Yeah.
And my uncle would come around, he liked it. My older brother liked it. So I was kind of just trying to fit in with the sound, but sonically, think it was Along the Watchtower.
Okay.
That tune is just, I think it was part of the Forrest Gump soundtrack as well. And I remember watching that film a lot with my family.
Yeah.
So that one stuck, that would be one of my earliest memories, like, and just seeing and then exploring more Jimi Hendrix, like seeing him play and stuff like that. But between that and Police, I had an album, my mum had a Police album, I think.
Yeah.
So I'm listening to Sting as a young boy, listening to Roxanne and all these, like I knew every tune, you know what I mean? And I actually like the music, do you know what I mean? So that's really my earliest memories of it coming up. I think what caught my attention though and made me fall in love with music was Busta Rhymes, was like seeing a Woo-Ha video. That video like literally is the perfect combination of aesthetic and sonic in one, and I think that caught my eye, that caught my ear, my eye, everything visually. And you'd have to give Hype Williams credit for that, because he brought that to life. June Ambrose with the wardrobe, do you know what I mean? It wasn't just Busta, but I didn't know that at the time. I'm just watching the TV, I'm like, who is this Rasta man running around with big energy on hypes and with the maddest wardrobe in it, and just flowing and talking about wake up every morning, yo, I must succeed, like me too, you know, I want to be like this. And maybe subconsciously, even back to the kind of absence of my father, I was looking for like a male role model, or especially a black male role model, because as much as my big bro was a role model, he's my half brother, and we have different dads. So he's a Scottish man, and I'm a Gambian boy growing up in London. It's two very different experiences, but I have to give him a lot of credit, because he was the one bringing in the Busta Rhymes CD for me after work, and you know what I mean. I think he used to work on a stall in Camden at the time. So you brought all these CDs back, and I was just like, what's this? I know I'm too young to listen to this. There's swearing on this. There's sonically, like...
I know what you mean, man.
You know what I mean? Busta Rhymes was a madman. He was talking all sorts of, like, there's only 5 years left. He was talking about the end of the world and apocalyptic. It was very theatric, his music. And even back to the video, like that I say, Woo-Ha, it's like, I grew up in theatre to some degree, because my auntie worked in the National Theatre, and I got to go back behind the scenes and see all the costume and the wardrobe and the set design. So I think there was real theatre in these videos. Like what Hype Williams did in that era was like find real superstars and like people that were willing to express themselves like creatively and visually. So that's one of my earliest memories. Just seeing that on the box, I think.
It's in the box.
You know them ones.
Like, it's interesting from like our generation, or even like take like 3 years younger than us, 3 years older than us. Yeah, it's like inside that bracket of people or young adults or like people growing up, like the influence of rap music. Do you know what I'm saying? Because I feel like it pierced through like on so many levels, like culturally at that time, like vehicles like the box, not vehicles but platforms, channels like the box and stuff like that. When you're waiting to see the rap video or like the 21 seconds or something like that, you open your mind to like, this is the culture. Do you know what I mean? Like you're absorbing it. Like
it's a window into someone else's culture and people that you identify with. Like I said, I think I was looking for that older role model. I was like quite one of the elders in my family, so I was always looking for an older space or someone to look up to. And I think like seeing these people express their truth and their artistry in an authentic way that I could relate to, like you said, the box and all that was a window to someone else's culture. I remember seeing Wu-Tang on the box. It wasn't even a video. It was just them running around New York with like RZA and ODB running around just being mad and being themselves. And I was like, who is this? What is this? It it reminds me of Grime in its early stages, like just real and untampered with, like authentic would be the word, innit? But, or the word that the masses would use, I say. I'd kind of like stay away from that word, because I just think it's like a way to quantify like originality, like from a consumer base, we need it to be authentic. And
I hear
it's just originality or something pure, but yeah, man, that was my connection to the States. I didn't know what was going on that side of the world, and we didn't have Grime yet. You know what I mean? We had drum and bass, I think, around these times. Jungle might have started coming up. Yeah, jungle, drum and bass. Then garage. So it still wasn't connecting with me as much as these lot.
Yeah.
And like you said, I'm an aesthetic person, so it would have been a lot to do with the music videos and the short films, etc. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Soundtracks, this and that. But
you just spoke about grime, and you mentioned it a few times, and I know we've had conversations off camera about grime and its impact. In terms of like rap, and let's talk specifically about US rap.
Yeah.
Or grime culture. Which one do you feel has had more impact on you?
That's a hard question.
It's a hard one, isn't it?
That's a serious question. Grime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Grime's the framework, isn't it?
I'd say it had more of an impact on me because I was able to like interact with it. Like I grew up around people that were MCs. I grew up around DJs. I saw that culture evolve and emerge, essentially. And I was listening to all the radio sets. I was getting the Mandem's music and like everyone that was doing it themselves and like running up on shows and radio sets. So I was actually like very privy to that. I wasn't I think I tried to write 1-2 bar and I was let me stick to the artwork. But you know what, I don't know what a 4 bar is. You man do that. I'll design your mixtape cover, like, you know, I'll do your MySpace. Yeah. So from there it was like, I was actually like a fly on the wall to this culture, and I was like running around with the Mandem, seeing people, seeing the Skeptors and the Wiley and all these man perform. I remember being in the Egg Club, King's Cross, and seeing my guy DJ for like Crazy Titch and Dirty Dugs at the time, and like this is vinyl. That is massive for me because they were probably 2 of my favorites. Like, but like I said, I wasn't like it impacted me because I was able to actually interact with it. It was more tangible than hip hop because that was across the seas, and I wasn't fully connected to British hip hop like that. Yeah, like I liked a lot. I liked it. Like I didn't fully Skinny Man, them too, but I didn't even zone in too heavy. I was even Rodney P. I was hearing and I liked it, but there wasn't enough of it. It's
different as well, isn't it? Like it's a different. I don't know how to describe it, but like
different texture, man.
When grime was coming out, grime was like exciting and all of that, and I kind of felt like the UK hip hop thing was good. There were so many people that were like technically very, very sick.
Trust me.
But like it didn't have the same impact. I was gonna ask you inside of that, like when we were talking about the hip hop and the grime thing. In your opinion, would you say grime is a subgenre of hip hop or it's its own genre?
I'd say it's a complete, like, I think when it comes to genres in general, it gets very messy. I think it's like, there's a very conscious answer coming, like, but I believe that like sound in general in it as a vibration is like essentially all there is. I believe that like light vibrated at sound vibrated at a faster speed becomes light, becomes everything else, like what we see, what we interact with. So I think people are just expressing something ancient, like a very African, like tribal, spiritual thing. So I understand why someone might even say that it's a subgenre, but I believe it's its own thing. I believe what grime was, it was almost a rebellion to a lot of the people that were trying to sound American to go. You know, there was an era where it was just everyone was spitting with
American accents.
Grime was very true to itself. It was like, seemed like a real like reflection of the city. I see it with drill. I see it with everything. The youth are always the way to like dictate what's going on politically, culturally. I think at the time that was just like, we don't have any representation as black youth mainly, and like we're just this is our outlet, much like hip hop. But so there's parallels.
Music. Yeah.
And I don't even think hip hop was rebellious. It was more like spiritual. It was more conscious originally. So it was more about therapeutic. Maybe this, as much as grime would have been, there was a aggression and there's an undertone of like inner city struggles and aggression, which I connected to because it was my reality. So I think it's its own thing, and I think it was born out of a more pure place. It wasn't trying to be hip hop, you know what I mean? It wasn't trying to be. Essentially, it came out of garage, which is nothing like hip hop.
Yeah.
So it could be a sub genre of that, but.
And all of that just derives back to dancehall in some way. Do you know what I mean? The clashing thing is definitely a Jamaican thing. Do you know what I mean?
And for sure, and that's why I say even back on a spiritual thing or on an ancient thing, it goes back to even further than that. So it's all one evolution of one thing, sound, you know, and expression essentially. And I think genres help you put it in a box or identify, but like, I make music myself and I couldn't tell you what genres I'm making because of how many...
It's a feeling in it, you're pulling from different places.
So many places, it's like...
I recognise that in your playlist there was, you know, you spoken about growing up in quite an eclectic household and like your mum feeding you all these sort of different vibes.
Bangers.
And
now that, like, in hindsight, I'm like, was this what I grew up to?
Bro,
like,
honestly, like... When I was growing up, there was a lot of songs my dad would play me and I'd be like, oh, mate, please turn this off, man. This? Like, it's not my vibe, and then 10 years later, you come across and you're like, rotted. Like, the song is bad.
Nah,
like, he was trying to put me onto something, you know what I'm saying?
Same.
But what I wanted to ask you about some of your alternative sort of tastes, stuff that's like slightly outside of not the normal realm, because I don't want to say normal, because that suggests something else, but like, you know what I mean? Like something that's a little bit further on the outskirts of the North Stars.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying?
For sure. What you got in mind?
So, like, I saw Bonobo on the list.
Yeah.
And I also saw some drum and bass stuff. Talk to me about, I think drum and bass first. Let's talk a little bit about drum and bass, because your brother was a drum and bass DJ.
That's it. Right? Yeah. That's where I first heard it. And he had his own decks at the time, and so I'm seeing turntables, I'm seeing vinyl. This is an evolution from him bringing CDs back home and, you know what I mean, albums. Now he's like actually mixing and creating, and I always wanted to jump on and learn, but he was just in his zone. It weren't easy either, so I think I had a go. I must have had a go, but...
What type of drum and bass was he like really into? Was it like more the harder stuff, or was it like more liquid?
Well, that's it.
Jazz?
I think because same way he grew up in the same house as me, this dub influence from my mum's side would have rubbed off on him, because he was gravitating to a lot of the dub influenced drum and bass, or the liquid. Like, he liked it all actually. He's got a very good taste for music, like, but it was the dub influence creeping in Goldie and Ronnie Size and people like that. Like, that's so I could connect with it. I'm seeing like people that I can identify with physically, and like Goldie and Ronnie Size, big dreadlocks, you know what I mean? Big locks. So I'm like, I'm hearing that and I'm realising that's back to that same one sound, that one rhythm, like it's being expressed in this music, and it's the more liquidy, soulful stuff that I like, because the other stuff's quite intense, like the heavy hitting, you know what I mean, drum and bass, like, but I just remember tunes like, was it Chopper or Helicopter? Chopper.
I think that's Chopper. I think it was.
Chopper. I think it's called Chopper. Helicopter.
I'm the worst person to ask for
tunes.
I can do the melody, I can sing it back to you, but first to be like, yo.
Them tunes there, and like the expression of it, because it was quite high energy, and I think that's what drew me to grime. Like, coming out of drum and bass was like, it was a bit more relatable to me. The sounds, the production I prefer, but it still had that intensity. It just had more space to breathe, I guess, but let the MC do their thing. But drum and bass came with that as well, MCs, you know what I mean?
I was going to say, did you sort of, you know, like, were you drawn towards more of the MC and stuff, or more the instrumental stuff?
I liked lyrics, like my favourite, the Goldie tune, Inner City Life, it's got a female vocalist on it, and it's like, like Ronnie Size's stuff as well, like Lucky Pressure and all these little tunes that had female vocals, or just vocals, and so I did like the way they interacted with a beat. I like that harmony. That's what I got from hip hop, to not to keep deviating from drum and bass, but like that's why I didn't go so heavy into drum and bass, but I got a bigger appreciation for it now. Now that my ears have matured, you know what I mean? So, and understanding what the feeling or the nostalgia that I had growing up listening to it. So yeah, but
so the center is like, you know, this, if I understand this correctly, the center is kind of always grime. Like, you deviate to drum and bass, you deviate to a bit of hip hop, but essentially it always comes back.
I think hip hop was the center though. So, but like, which is mad because I said what impacted me more was Grime, but like I say that because I was like more able to physically interact with Grime and like relate to people that were actually from my same like political like situation essentially, or my same background, do you know what I mean? And be it ethnically or even just like politically, we're all coming up in council flats and estates. We all feel to a huge degree like oppressed upon by our leaders, or you know what I mean, the culture that we're in. So for me, that was like seeing people that I could actually almost look at as like a big brother or someone that I can shake their hand.
With.
Yeah, but I'd say artistically, hip hop is what I went for, is what I drew from. The music videos, the album covers, the styling, all of that. I think we're still finding our voice aesthetically with, well, now it's actually come to fruition, I think, with artwork and covers and things. I like some of the old covers and some of the old Grime stuff, but
we was chatting earlier this week, and you know we was going through some of these songs in here. I'm literally just drawing them out randomly. I think this is the Da Vinci one.
Is it?
Yeah. Imagine
Da Vinci,
that.
you know.
That wasn't planned, by the way. That was actually completely
so
random.
and that's the one you picked up before, isn't it? What's it called?
This is from Paper Chase. This is Essential Shutdown. So
Essentials.
You got
South
a
London,
random one there which just says Scar on it.
The man said Essentials.
Oh, look at that though. I know this isn't your one, but
Shut. What's that, Lloyd?
Ja Rule.
Caught up.
Dirty Canvas, boom. That's where it was, boom. I remember ordering some of these from Rhythm Division and paying mad peas because some of them would get sold out and then you'd have to reorder them when they come on the next one, and it would be peas, man.
Listen, this just even steering this is mad. It's mad for me.
Nicki S and Nike, too bad, man.
Nicki S and Nike.
Nah, you got some good tunes here. Roll
See
Deep,
that tune
Bounce.
there?
A lot of white labels.
That's my intro to Grime.
Yeah.
Like my most memorable one, I think.
Do you know what one of my introductions to Grime was? I think it was. Do you know it? Not introductions, because I know my cousin was feeding me more songs before I heard this one, but I remember when I heard the Miss Dynamite verse on that Envy song, the So Solid song. When I said on the microphone,
explosive. Oh yeah.
I was like, yo, what is this energy? Like, I need to be around this.
Ferocious, bro.
You know what I mean? Like, I was like, yo, what is this? At that point, there was a lot of other music around that time I got shown that I had similar moments to.
See, that's a point. That's what I'm saying. I grew up. I went to school with like a Carla, obviously, who's Miss Dynamite's brother.
Yeah.
And my uncle, who was a DJ and another influence into like the hip hop side of things. He, I think he first got a Carla in the studio, got him recording as a young. He used to look after these lot. So that's another thing. Back to the impact. It was like there was people around me that were showing me maybe I can get involved or in some way contribute, or it's for me, it's my culture.
I think that's a beautiful thing about Grime as well, man. I'll be real with you, because like I feel like so many people saw people on Channel U and other things and thought, right, I can do that because they done it.
Do you know what I mean?
You know what I mean?
So
like,
that's not to cut you off, but that's exactly what I mean about finding our voice aesthetically. Because Channel U and these, it was still gritty. We were just shooting videos on the blocks and in the hood and with low camera, you know what I mean, low technology essentially. But I still love that. I think that's back to originality or just actually creating, and that will only evolve anyway, and it has. But I'm still looking over here for like visual influences. But in terms of Grime, like sonically and being introduced to it, like. I think it was Roll Deep and So Solid low key. So in terms of like going way back, like So Solid for me were the ones that like first caught my attention when I was like, oh, this is aesthetically, these are all wearing suits, white, nice videos, big budgets, Mega Man's in the TT on top of the building, talking about would you like, you know, the one that on some Diddy like Hate Me Now type Nas stuff. So I was like, this sound here. What is this? I think, Oh No, I heard first. And because that came out before 21 Seconds, innit?
Yeah.
or I probably heard Oxide and Neutrino first, actually.
I'm interested to find out what made you start producing.
Me too. I think I kind of just started, for the past 3-4 years, I've been learning, I've been teaching myself how to use Ableton and figure out like what I can do with this thing. I remember like way back using the PlayStation. What was it?
I don't remember the game.
Music 2000.
Or
EJ.
EJ, I remember.
So I had EJ on my computer.
Cold.
I had Napster.
Yeah.
And as a young kid, I was like, what can I do with these two things? So I can download music.
Yeah.
And I can put bars and beats together and make. So I flexed with that early. So I got memories that actually building a beat when I was young, and then trying to dip in and out of doing that. But it never really was like, it was never really concrete until way more recently. So I'm like, actually like, creatively, where I've been doing all the design work and like found myself, my craft, like not mastered, but really excelled at something I've been working at for years. I was able to transfer that same creative thinking to music and all right, cool, I've learned Photoshop and Illustrator and all this interface and all these, Ableton can't be too hard, like let me figure this out. You know what I mean? I've seen others do it, a couple tutorials here and there, a lot of advice from you and support for little gems from you, you know, them ones, plugins, etc. And then from there, it's just like, because I've been just consuming so much music over the years, it's easy for me to like know what I like, know what kind of sonics I want to create, and then just figure it out from there. And I learn quite physically and like hands-on. So I'll just figure it out, turn every knob and figure out like every little feature or button, and then we're like, cool, that's what you can do with this.
How would you describe yourself as a creative? Because just sort of like being exposed to some of your process, it seems very fluid in terms of like how you sort of execute. And I fully respect that, because I think you have to have a level of like taste and talent to be that fluid and get away with it. Trust me. You know what I mean?
Trust me. To zone in on the question more, how have I like found that sort of fluidity, I guess.
What's your process in terms of like going through like, you know, trying a little something with production?
How would I describe myself as a creative? Okay, so like, it's hard because in this day and age you've got like, there's the mentality of jack of all trades, master of none, innit? So I describe myself as a master of all trades. But I want to be arrogant. But I describe myself as like, I wouldn't describe myself. I'd say like I'm channeling the creator, channeling what it is to create, like God or whatever your consciousness or leaning towards is of that power that we will acknowledge, or most of us do. Do you know what I mean? So I'd just say I'm expressing my creativity or my alignment to that power. I feel like God runs through us all. So I'm just expressing an aspect of what I can do as a creator. And there's no limits to that if I understand that God runs through me. Do you know what I mean? So for me, I just like explore the practice would be a very spiritual one for me. It's like turning thought to fruition, turning a blank piece of paper into something. That is the power we have, and that's a simple power that we have. That's worked for me for the past 30-something years. You know what I mean? So like, it's a very spiritual thing, creativity, and I don't think you can define people as like a creative or a digital. It's too refined to what our potential is. Like, you're a digital designer, so that means you can't paint. Do you know what I mean? That means you can't. And I was like, I can do everything. I like 3D and clay. Like, when I was studying at uni, I did animation, so that allowed me to do things like 3D modeling, 2D like sketching and animation, 3D, everything. Do you know what I mean? So I think I've always had that like craving to just explore more than like the pen and paper or the paintbrush and canvas. To be fair, as illustrator, I grew up in a time where there was no Photoshop to it being introduced, and then a laptop being placed in front of me with these tools on it. And I'm like, prior to that, I was using Paint, MS Paint, and doing all these pixelated characters. And it was like, I was getting really good at it to the point where I needed another software to excel in my design. Do you know what I mean? I was like, I'm actually illustrating on this crude interface or this crude software. Now there's something that actually allows me to illustrate, you know what I mean, and like design. So I think it was an easy transition for me as someone that was just very like over creative, just trying to be like my mum, and you know what I mean, like, but in a new age, new technology is available.
That's wavy, man. I think there's some gems that you dropped in there, definitely. Like, I was listening to that and I was even thinking to myself, like, me being like disciplined in lots of different things, like, I think there was some great advice there, because ultimately it all comes from inspiration. Do you know what I mean? And if you're invested in a point where like you're close to that spirituality, energy, like the thing that births the creativity, then you can move into a painting, you can move into a DJ, and you can move into the production, because the spark's there.
Fully.
You know what I mean? I think where people go wrong is they try and take on a lot of things and essentially they can't execute because the spark's not there.
And what often like imposes upon that is like the need to provide like a living for yourself and pay bills. And that's why I say I'm channeling something different, because I've had to find a space where I can like do what I enjoy doing and get paid for it, and take a risk and gamble on my own like craft and my own talents and imagination, and allow that to allow me to do something that's not like retail. No offense to people that do that, because I proper admire people that can do that, because I used to do it, and it's like, to me it's not creative enough for me. It's not. Do you know what I mean? I actually proper respect people that can do that, because it's hard work. It's not easy work. And my creativity wasn't being fed by those things, like, do you know what I mean? So it was back to the point at hand. It's like there's something deeper going on, where you're actually using creativity or your imagination to find your way out of a circumstance that you're not like comfortable with, which is what all these genres are. Hip hop, grime, everything is, you know what I mean? It's evolved out of that that pressure, essentially. Like coal turned to diamonds. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, man, I'd describe myself as a multidisciplinary designer or artist or creative, but for people to understand like that I'm technically capable of doing more than one. But I think it's quite hard. Like, I'd make music, I produce, I'm learning to DJ, like, you know what I mean? I can paint, I can draw, I can illustrate, I can do a business card for you, whatever it is, and it's just like, I don't know that there's something to describe that in the way that we've been accustomed to, like job roles and stuff. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Artists, to me, like, it would be the best overall way to put, you know what I mean?
Umbrellas, everything.
Because artistry is at the heart of what I do, like trying to evolve my craft or actually say something, you know what I mean? Communicate. Like, there's always messaging with what I'm doing, even if I don't realize it when I'm doing it. I'll see the meaning in a painting way after. I'm like, oh, I was telling myself to keep my balance, or to stay on board, or whatever it is, do you know what I mean? So it's just back to the spiritual side of it.
Has that come out in like songwriting or lyrics, or like poetry or anything like that?
What come out creative?
In terms of like your creativity, have you ever felt like an urge to do some like actual, when I say artist, I mean like recording
in the music?
Music
something
stuff.
I've been dabbling with, and like over the years, like I said, when I first got into it, I was struggling with bar structure and like trying to actually create like a way that flows, because I'm a perfectionist and hypercritical of like art, so I'll be too heavy on myself. But now I've learned to like just channel or be a bit more free with it. You can't go wrong with art. Just put the pen to paper and it's better than not doing anything. Do you know what I mean? So I'm a bit more free with it, but it's a very it's a very creative and spiritual process to get words out, and upon reflection and looking back at them, you start to realize that you're actually guiding yourself, and you're giving yourself gems, or you're saying something you didn't even know was deeper, like that was actually happening within you, or subconsciously, or spiritually, or emotionally, whatever it is, it comes out. And I've always enjoyed writing. I was good at English, good at like history. I studied history and science and all these things. I was good at it. I liked writing. when I even picked up animation to study at uni, it's because it incorporated writing and actually dissertations and things like that. I didn't want to be limited by the way I could create or
when you are creating, something that you said earlier that resonated with me, in terms of when you're flowing and you're going, like, what's the speed that you create at? And the reason why I ask that, because sometimes when I'm writing lyrics or I'm rapping or whatever the case may be, sometimes you experience that flow that people talk about. It's just like, it just comes out of your pen. You can't even keep up.
Yeah, I've experienced that.
And then sometimes there's that sort of like, I know what this should be, but right now the pieces are just too fragmented in my mind for it to come together. Like inside of writing lyrics, but also in other disciplines, like how do you kind of experience that flow?
That flow is back to what you were saying as well. It's inspiration based. I realized this properly in when I was out in Africa a couple months ago in Sierra Leone. I was making music with a couple of the artists out there, and I had my little Newmark controller, so I'd set off the vibe before even getting in the room and playing my beats. I'll just like have a little mix, get the vibe up, get people dancing and loose, and then set it off and be like, alright, cool, like here's some of my beats, let them flow on it, and then just from there build the inspiration. Like it's about actually being the source of inspiration or creating that energy to flow, because it's
like a context.
It's like basketball, it's like anything that you're passionate about or put 10,000 hours into. There's a point where like the flow is there. You're not going to get that just jumping on the court straight away, run in and you'll flow. You're going to have to warm up a bit and like, you know what I mean, learn your like surroundings or your opponent, whatever it is, and then that flow will come like the first quarter or the second, you know what I mean, and then you'll start. But for me, in terms of channeling that flow, it can be very fragmented, as you said, and like it's kind of organized chaos with me.
Yeah,
so I might have concepts for a tune, or I'll have a beat here, and I'll just create to it till that block comes, till the flow stops. I'll be like, I'm not, and then I'll just turn the page and I'll be like, oh, what's this? Carry on with something else, or play another beat, maybe jump back to it. So I'm able to kind of like navigate in that way, like creatively, and draw from a lot. If you look at my like sketchbooks, which I've got, and notepads, which I've got about 1,000 of them, there's just writing as concepts in it, and they're all in like 5 or 10 different like notepads, do you know what I mean? And it's like
just a bag of them
ideas, and it would literally look like this, and then I can just I feel like I'm committing these ideas to my subconscious. I don't even need to go back to them. It's just getting it out, because I'm aesthetic and visual. I need to just see the words written. I can't you know what I mean, and then it's there. So it's a quite a unique process, but it's the flow is that's something that not only creatives feel, but anyone that's in tune with like their passion or their I believe, or sport or whatever it is, because I feel like there's a moment, time stops when you're in that flow. You don't like, you could be there for an hour and you didn't know it was an hour, or 2 hours and you felt like 3 minutes you were writing, but definitely just had that flow or that urge where I'm just writing and it's like I'm not even in control of this pen no more, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful feeling to have that inspiration and work with that.
For real. You spoke about Sierra Leone, and obviously you've been visiting there recently. In the mix that we're going to go into later on, I noticed that some of the songs that you sent me are heavily Afrobeat influenced. Talk to me about like the importance of Afrobeat for you personally.
The importance of Afrobeats. It's I've been listening to a lot of it as of recent, but it's not it's something I've been past few years. Obviously we throw the parties with Rilla, and it's a very I've seen the tides change, and the way Afrobeats has started or people have gravitated to Afrobeats more, especially where dancehall and more Jamaican music took more of a front stage in that. I've kind of just been in tune with the Afro thing the Afro sound, from two experiences. So, like I said, my mum raised me quite African, do you know what I mean? And a couple of my neighbours down the road from where I grew up were Congolese. And I grew up hearing their mum playing like all this Congolese music and this Afro beats, and it was just like it's a vibe, live instrumentations, people dancing. I was like, what? I don't even know what the genre of it's called, but what is this? Like, that was my first introduction to that sound. And then I think as I grew, I would have heard about Fela Kuti and studied him, and then started to hear the origin, and then doing the research. I'm like, oh, okay, this is the heartbeat together that I'm talking about. That ancient, that music is a thing you can't play with. It's a spiritual thing. Like, and
I hear that with some of the songs that you sent, man. Like I listen to it and I'm like, this feels familiar, but I never heard it before.
Do you know what I mean? You know? It's spiritual for me. Is like, I think when I first proper started getting into it is when I started hearing Afro house. I was out in Switzerland, ironically, and like, I say ironically because it wasn't Africa that I was that I was exposed to it, but it was from my South African guy. He was just playing these tunes. I was like, what is that? And then my guys, they put me onto this sound. I was like, from there I was like, this is the perfect genre. This is the perfect tempo. This is the perfect sound. You know what I mean? And so then my palette or my ear was just open for Afrobeats to come in, and Afro swing and all of this, and I just started to take a real pride in my African identity, especially through going back to Gambia and starting to make connections and meet my pops and start to meet family members, and you know what I mean. That was like, that made me realize that like, that's my culture. This ain't my, like, London is as much as we grew up here and have navigated this way of living, it doesn't resonate. It's not the culture. It's not. It lacks that community vibe. It lacks that heartbeat. That doesn't lack it. Wherever there's like Africans, like Africa is in it. So whether it comes through Boy Better Know and Skepta and all these are, it's Nigerian. It's a you know what I mean. So whether we're in London or Russia, it's that vibration, that one sound that I'm talking about. That ancient thing is coming through us. So hip hop in America, jazz and soul down in the more southern states, wherever it is, like grime here, hip hop, Afro house, it's all gonna come through the melanin, innit? So like, it's essentially like, that's really like how I started to get into it, and then I just love the sound. Yeah, bro, like, it's a beautiful sound, man. It's void of like to some degree, there's a lot less crud and rubbish being taught, and a lot of violence and all of that. It's just, you know what I mean, and just they're talking about, I love the way you dance and smile, and just these proper quite nice sentiments. They're quite romantic and it's like quite an African thing from my experience. There's quite a like romancing, like courtship and talking to girl. There's a bit more love and respect there, I think. Culturally, so it's just a higher vibration for me. I think it's not an accident that it's like running the world at the moment, and you're seeing artists bend to this sound and collaborate with the Davidos and etc. You know what I mean? Yeah, man. But the importance of it to me is like, essentially, it's the soundtrack to like the homecoming, innit? It's like, we got to all go back, and we've got the soundtrack to that right now. African Giant. We got all these bangers that we can just like march back home to, because that's consciously and spiritually where I'm at, like trying to get back to that heartbeat, you know what I mean? But in due time, bro. Bro, I like the way that you framed that, man, for real. Important. I think it's time to get into the mix, you know, bro. Straight to it. I think it's time, man. I'm ready. Like some of the songs that you showed me and that, like, I'm dying to get into. So let's get it. Let's do this, bro. I'm all for it, bro. Thank you for being a guest. It's been a blessed conversation, man. Honor, bro. Yeah. Honor. Blessings, man. Big up.